All right, what's going on Instagram? So I'm doing a weekly Patterdox Roundtable discussion. Excuse me. Air quality's not great. What's up, JJ?
Hey, what's up?
Oh, hey, what's going on, guys?
Howdy.
Hey. So, man, yeah, lots of different directions we can go in today. My goodness.
I'm curious. Actually, we can start on our questions right now for you.
No, yeah.
You doing? First off, you doing okay? Your family?
Yeah, but did I send you guys a video? I don't know if I sent you a video. Like it's wild. Like just from our house, we have like a view of like the mountains, and you can see them glowing orange at night, and the smoke is crazy. But we're pretty far away from it, thank God. But like former students of mine lost their houses. I just came back from jiu-jitsu, and like 6 guys in my jiu-jitsu school lost their houses.
Wow.
You know, one of the things that's that's really interesting is because it's like a wealthy neighborhood, I'm hearing just a little bit of like, it's Pacific Palisades. They're rich. They're fine. It's like, like there's a lot of people, especially in California, because housings are so expensive, that, you know, move to nice neighborhoods and they're kind of house rich, but like asset poor. And they might not have anything. And then with the insurance companies dropping so many people, I think State Farm dropped like 70,000 people just recently. And so a lot of people don't have insurance, or they, even if they do, there's no way, like the size of this, like the scale of this, there's no way these insurance companies are going to be able to cover it. They're going to go insolvent. Like they can't.
Yeah. And it's going to take like, you know, a year or two to kind of go through the claims, get, you know, what do you do? Buy a new home?
What do you do?
Build?
Yeah, I'm putting it out there because we have some room in our house. I'm putting it out there to people, like if they need a place to stay, they can come stay with us. Because like I really don't know. It's devastating. I mean, you know, people lost everything. It happened so quick because there were like 80-mile-an-hour winds, so it's like a blast furnace in there. It just rips through. It just melts everything.
What is well, I'm glad that you're saying.
Yeah, we are. Thank you.
What I mean, touch on like the conspiracy stuff. It's like, it's kind of, you know, I swear, like it's just wild. I don't know if you're in the same world and kind of like you're plugged into kind of some of the podcast world and all those people. Yeah. It's like, oh, it's Maui, it's Asheville, it's, you know, Palisades. It's all planned. It's all direct energy weapons. Yeah. You know, the latest one I heard today with like absolute certainty that they said was like the houses that had blue on their roofs didn't get affected by the direct energy weapons, and they're like, it's just kind of crazy. It's like, and I'm like, I mean, again, I don't discount. It's like almost like percentage, like hypothesis. Like, what's the percent of this being true versus absolute certainty? And that's the thing I've always had an issue with all like conspiracy kind of minded people. What do you want to call them? Theorists, whatever.
Yeah.
People that live in that world, right? I guess you would consider yourself one, Will, right? A little bit.
Yeah.
Like, it's like the absolute certainty with which they come at this being true. And like you being dummy or out of the loop if you don't agree or see the truth in it. You know what I mean? So like, and I'm not opposed to like all those things could come out in the wash being true, but like, I don't know, man. It's just like, and then like, that's where the rabbit holes come in. Oh, you're not seeing the things that I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Right? You haven't seen the videos that I've seen or done the quote unquote research that I've done. And so that's where it's kind of, it's tough, man. Like, that's where I think, I don't know. I'm just curious. Like, you know, do you know of any people in your media circle that kind of go to that or have gone to that?
Yeah.
Oh, my God, this is the government.
Yeah.
The cabal is at work.
Oh, yeah. But the thing is, like, the way I've always said, the way I've always explained conspiracy theories is like, it's a theory. So it's a hypothesis. Hypothesis, by definition, I think theories, by definition, are to be questioned. They're not, it's the opposite of certainty.
I don't think it's not derogatory.
No.
It's not a derogatory thing. It's just like, yeah, it's a theory that, and then after time, the theory part gets removed and it's a conspiracy that's proven true.
Right.
Like, for me, that's how I see it. Like,
yeah.
It was like a deliberate effort, maliciously intended, that now if you remove the theory, it's actually true. Right?
Yeah. So I love conspiracy theories. I love conspiracy theories, and I guess people label me a conspiracy theorist, but solely for the reason of sparking that curiosity to be like, is this true? Let's dig deeper. Did we land on the moon? Is the earth flat? I don't know. Let's pick apart the evidence. Like that's the conspiracy facts stuff is that's a whole different kettle of fish to me. I don't understand that at all. I don't align with that at all. But whatever these people are saying, it's like, all right, well, let's go down that road. I tend to lean more into, instead of like the cabal of super geniuses twisting their mustache and trying to like destroy stuff. I think I heard someone say one time that government is more like Vice than House of Cards. And that really stuck with me. I think it's a lot of like incompetence.
More than what? Vice?
Vice more than Veep. I'm sorry, Veep.
Oh, Veep.
Veep. Like it's a bunch of idiots. Yeah. Rather than it's a bunch of like super geniuses. Like I think that's more accurate.
Like idiots, like incompetent, ineffective people together. Combine that on our aggregate, it's gonna look like it's like, oh, you guys all conspire together. And so I don't know. It's just interesting, kind of like just come up a lot in the past couple of days with the fires and stuff, and like just the Maui stuff and the direct energy weapons and. And then you have the things like, oh, this technology does exist. The weather modifications, like, they created a hurricane. Like, it's almost like it's all convoluted. Like, there's tons of land out in the U.S. Can't we just take a city and put it in the middle of nowhere, or like, somewhere? Like, why did it burn all this down and create? I don't know. Like, it's just there's so many just contortions and things around this. And also in the wake of immediate tragedy. It's like kind of like hijacking the tragedy to fit the narrative to make you feel like you're in the know and know about this. Because I don't know, it's just a whole layers to this.
People aren't letting, like, the people who lost their homes, they lost everything. And a lot of them that I've talked to or know, like where everyone in LA is like one person removed from someone who lost everything.
Yeah.
And
sure.
I mean, it's so big. So, but like, we got to mourn this before we can just be like, it's Gavin Newsom's fault, it's Karen Bass's fault, it's Trump's fault, whatever the people say. It's, mostly it's going to be like, it's the woke Californian stuff. That definitely could be true. Like there was an article that came out in January of 2023, so two years ago, about how they're more focused on like saving ecological systems and fish and stuff like that than they are helping to have reserve water for farmlands and stuff. Like, that makes sense.
I was say that, in Canada, Trudeau is spending more time focusing on, like, indigenous stuff and then, like, gender and racial stuff than, like, actually economic and all the other stuff, right?
Yeah.
It kind of comes at a cost.
That's a big leap from that to, space lasers causing this. The winds are insane. Like, my whole house is shaking at night. It's unbelievable, and it's super dry.
I literally brought that up, and I'm like, because I lived in California, I lived in LA for 6, LA, San Diego. Yeah. Santa Ana winds are real. I'm like, but then there's like there's always a caveat, like, but they're weaponizing the weather to create the wind is even stronger. It's like kind of like it's exhausting. It's kind of like
what would be the motive behind it?
Well, the quick thing is like, to create 15 new cities. They want to. It's like, but how does that work? I don't understand. So.
Well, the other thing would be that I heard about Hawaii, maybe a little bit about North Carolina, is essentially when everything gets ruined, then, powerful people swoop in and buy it for like pennies on the dollar, and then they can build up their own thing. It's like, for those people in charge. And like, I think it's more opportunity. It's like carpetbaggers. Yeah, I think it's more like carpetbaggers in Civil War, where it's like, there's an opportunity here to make a ton of money. Like, again, I don't think that Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg or people like that in the tech industry caused COVID, but I do think that when COVID was there, they're like, whoa, this is an opportunity to move everything online. Let's do whatever we can to capitalize. Absolutely. That seems more reasonable. And that's still a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least it's a more reasonable one.
Yeah.
But it's just.
And the similar thing happens with hurricanes. I'm in Florida, and I remember recently there was a hurricane. It was more late in the season. It was in the Gulf Coast. It developed, and it was a Category 5 while it was in the Gulf. I remember everyone started freaking out, saying like, "Oh my! If it's a Category 5 in the Gulf, what is it going to be by the time that it hits us?" And there were all these conspiracy theories going around saying that they're, geo-manufacturing the hurricane and all
to
this
hit
stuff.
Republican areas, right?
To hit Republican areas, yes. That's exactly what it was. And then while it was in the Gulf, it weakened. By the time it hit us, it might have been like a category 2, and the theories went away. And it's just like, I just feel like sometimes it fits the narrative that people want to have.
Of course.
And so people will kind of, attach these ideas to it.
Yeah, there was a guy that a good friend of mine knows. He was an airline pilot for many years, and he swears that the planes he was flying were like cloud seeding. Like those what are the chemtrail stuff. He like swears by that stuff, and he says that he's seen UFOs and stuff. So I was like, knowing me? I'm like, what do I say? Come on the podcast, let's talk about it. And he's like, no way, they're gonna come after me if I do that. It's like, well, what do you want? Then what are you gonna do? Like, because you're not gonna have like these conversations where I can push back and put you out, expose ideas. This is why I'm against the woke stuff. It's like, put it out there, let people discuss it, and then we'll come up with what's true or not. And the certainty is so bad.
Yeah, I love the idea that in that book, Tim Urban's book, where he says like, you can't like have a boxer and just without having had a fight, say he's the #1 heavyweight champion of the world.
Yeah.
You got to put him in the ring.
Yeah. Same with ideas.
Our idea is like a boxer, right? Like after a couple of rounds, it's going to get tested, it's going to get better, it's going to get stronger.
Yeah.
So I think like with any idea, whether it's left or right. Anyway, I don't want to hijack the topic, but it was a lie for me based on what was happening in LA.
Yeah.
But
no,
it's wild.
Trevor, you're super like even keeled. What do you think?
I missed a lot of that because my Wi-Fi was super bad, so I'm trying to piece together what you guys are talking about.
Okay.
I guess basically the fires and conspiracy theories and stuff.
Some of like the more out there conspiracy theories of like, that these were like targeted like space lasers, for lack of a better term, like those kinds of weapons. Like, is that possible? For sure. Do you know what? Also, there's videos of people like in Santa Monica of just like, I don't know, as Trump would say, like thugs, starting fires. I think there's that too. I mean, the same mentality of people who, school shootings. People have asked me a lot about what I think of school shootings. What I say about school shootings is what I believe them to be is young men, especially, okay, or trans women, but like young men who feel like they don't have a place in this world. Like it's a lack of purpose, right? So they're like, I have no point to be in this world. It's all a black hole, really nihilistic and stuff. So I'm just gonna kill myself. But if I kill myself and I don't matter, that's like the worst. Like now I don't matter even in my death, even giving the biggest sacrifice. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna matter in the world. And there's a video of Nicholas Cruz right before he shot up Parkland, and he's talking to his phone and he goes, my name's Nicholas Cruz, you don't know who I am, but you will. And then he shot. So I think that, I tell my students like, within 10 minutes, you could be known for generations by millions of people, but then by hundreds of people for generations in 10 minutes. All you have to do is go out and just start like, go up to a bunch of kids and just start stabbing them or something, like something that just, really, really horrible. But what that does is it gets on the news, your face is on the news, okay? You matter. It's like the kids in school who are ignored at home. Elie Wiesel, that author who survived the Holocaust, he said the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. So the kids who are ignored at home, they act up in school. So when they go to the principal's office, if their dad shows up and has to yell at them, it's like, my dad's paying attention to me, I'll take it. So I think there are people who are watching this and they go, you know what? If I can create a massive fire, I did that. It's really hard to make a positive impact on the world. It's really easy to make a negative impact on the world. And I think that there's elements of that. I believe. And I do think that some of these fires might have been caused by arson, by people who just want to, like they say in The Dark Knight, see the world burn. I do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's funny too, because like the other, and just it's almost like they have to like, remember Family Circus, Billy? Go on this little Sunday cartoon and go all around the neighborhood and touch all the points. So it's almost like when something bad happens, you have to connect it to everything. So like today, I think I've mentioned in the thing, like, it's P. Diddy's, there's evidence in these homes of all the celebrities that did P. Diddy. And it's like, okay, so like there's no other way to get rid of that evidence aside from burning like 5,000 homes. It's like, and it just gets...
Why not apply Occam's razor? Like Occam's razor exists for a reason. It's like you what's the most likely thing? Or what's the other one? Hanlon's razor. It's just like don't attribute to malice what could be attributed to a stupidity. I mean, like, I think there's a lot of incompetence, and I think there's just, look, there were really bad winds. There was really bad overgrowth. We had bad environmental policies. We knew that this was coming. I posted something about how Joe Rogan's been calling this for years because he talked to some firefighter like 20 years ago. Like, there's all that. There is like that. That's enough of a conspiracy theory. Like, I think that's enough. You know, I referenced this study a while back that was about how 1 in 5 college-age women are sexually assaulted on university campuses, and that got a lot of like play. But what that study actually broke down, I talked about this in my civics class, is like the questions were like, have you ever gotten drunk, had sex with someone, and then regret it the next day? That's a sexual assault. So they changed the definition, where the reality is it's about 1 in 40 college-age women experience sexual assault. I went to Penn State. There's 40,000 undergrads. That means 1,000 college-age women experience sexual assault. That's bad enough. We don't need to make it 1 out of 5. 1 out of 1,000, or whatever it is, or I'm sorry, 1 out, whatever I said, 1 out of 40 is bad enough. That's really bad. Like, what happened here, the policies and stuff, that's bad enough. We don't need space lasers. We don't need to have this about Diddy. Like, what it is bad enough. But I think people just have a tough time, like, recognizing something so big could happen without some sort of, like, cabal of people in charge. And I don't know what that is. It's like the appeal of like people up at the top or something along those lines. I'm not sure.
Well, I think it's also like, I think my theory is kind of like, my theory around the theories is like, it's people that we don't have the mental or emotional or nervous system capacity to deal with uncertainty and confusion and chaos. So we crave, in moments of this crisis, we crave the simplicity or the binary like logic that comes from this. Yeah. Right? Like, it's Lex Luthor. I'd rather just have Lex Luthor be the bad guy, the creating all this, versus,
maybe that gives us some comfort. What do you think we guys think? Exactly. Does that give us some comfort? Like, oh, things aren't just random. Like, this gives us like, okay, there's a bad guy here. Like, this stuff can't just happen. This, that kind of stuff. Because that might do scary for people. It gives them some comfort to believe that it's just a bad guy. Yeah. Melissa, what do you think? Are you there? I don't know.
I think a lot of these things people come from. You hear the expression, go touch grass. A lot of people don't get outside enough. People are chronically online. And they live on the internet.
Yeah.
They will.
They literally go touch grass. Go outside and touch it.
Yeah. Are you on TikTok, Will? Do you have?
I have a TikTok, but I just take whatever I put on Instagram. Sometimes I forget. Probably like 3 days a week, 4 days a week. I just go post it on TikTok and then bounce. I don't spend any time on there.
I'm curious if you've noticed any difference between observing your students. Any difference between TikTok and Instagram in terms of like the trance state? Like, my wife's on TikTok. She downloaded it recently, and I'm like, it's a different energy when someone's on TikTok scrolling.
Yes.
Somehow than Instagram Reels. It's just for me. I don't have any evidence aside from just that and my own experience.
Yeah.
Where like it's my god, like I'm just like 20 minutes later, I'm like, it's like I don't know what is it because the shorter videos, but like why it's different than Instagram Reels. Or it just feels that way.
It's designed. It's well. The thing is it's Instagram is moving toward and has been for a couple of years now, like 3 years, moved toward more of a TikTok format, which is just making more like entertainment rather than information. Obviously, I started that and I'm on there to try and do information, but it's not really designed for that. It's just it's made to just give you a quick dopamine hit. Dopamine hit. And then people have their dopamine receptors all out of whack because they're just used to this like constant little like this little feedback, and you get the payoff real quick on TikTok. I mean, the fact that I was able to grow an account even to the size that it is with like the kind of content that I put out there is something, because it's like you have to kind of stick with it, and people, a lot of people don't. That's not why they're on social media. They're on social media for the dopamine hit, and some stuff I say like, Biden sucks, that gives them the dopamine hit, but a lot of it's not. But I don't know how to break people out of that, because again, just like the woke stuff, or just like kind of anything. I mean, you could do it with vegans. You could do it with anything. Is like if you're unwilling to challenge your belief, then you're not a critical thinker by definition. So how do you do that? And then they can just reserve themselves back to their siloed little echo chambers where they're around other people. And then I think it's also dangerous when you take people out. When you deplatform someone like Alex Jones. I watched a whole Alex Jones, Joe Rogan podcast like maybe 4 years ago maybe. And a bunch of my colleagues were like, I can't believe you're talking about watching Alex Jones. He's so bad. He's so dangerous. I was like, make an assignment for your students to watch Alex Jones episode and then debunk him. Prove him wrong.
Yeah.
Like that's what you do.
Exactly.
You don't silence them because you're taking people with a persecution complex and then you're shutting them down. That's just going to feed the narrative. Same thing that when they
wouldn't like to kind of follow the critical thinker line. Wouldn't like I'll send an article, let's say like from like earlier today. I said, I'll send a CNN article to somebody. Like, I'm not even going to bother reading that. So I know what it is. I know what they say. Wouldn't the critical thinking be like, I want to read it and I want to see what's signal, what's noise, and like discern for myself. And the same thing with a Fox News or Epoch Times or
it's all of them.
or whatever.
It's not just a left wing thing or just a right wing thing.
Send them 2 articles. That's what I try to do in the group. One
Yeah.
from the left, one from the right.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. I never thought of that.
But who? Yeah, but they have to be willing to read it.
Be like, read both though.
Are they willing to read it?
So, like, the lens to which they look at it, like, you know what I mean? Like, anyways, it's just, yeah.
I don't know if they are.
Try to not make people defensive because people get like their ideas become their identity, and if you question their idea, then you're questioning who they are as a person.
100%.
Kind of try to get them to remove themselves from that, but like, hey, I'm not saying I don't understand this idea that you have. I don't think you're crazy because you have one idea that I don't agree with or think is weird. I want to know why you think that way. But it's really hard online. Like on Instagram, people assume the worst. Like, oh, this guy's coming for me. I'm going to come back even harder. Like,
yeah. I have a free download on my website. It's Debate to Dialogue, and it's like it goes over all these specific things you can do to try. Like one of the things is you recognize if you take the space laser person, you can say like, did you know about this space laser? That this is real? Did you know that they did this in the past and this was real? Did you know blah, 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 this is real? Oh, man, that's crazy. Here's why this isn't that case. Like, so you warm them up to be like, you're not completely out of your mind, but this is where you lose the narrative. This is where you're off the path. And then they're kind of warmed up to you a little bit.
Yeah. Like almost like Aikido, where you align the energy with them and then...
Because otherwise they're so defensive.
Agreement first.
Yeah. You want to find like shared values. You want to recognize them for not being crazy because they're just used to being called crazy all the time. You know, and there's so many things that are conspiracy theories that turned out to be true. So you recognize that, but not everything is something, really malicious that's, from the top up. Not everything. So how do you differentiate what is and what isn't? That's where critical thinking comes in. That's where you have to be able to challenge your hypothesis. But people just don't want to do that. I think it's just too uncomfortable. But that's another thing. Are you guys, you're part of this group, so maybe you are like built like me, which is like, I don't want to have bad ideas. I'll defend what I think is right. I'll defend it. But if it's like, oh man, you really got me there, I'll exchange that right away for this new idea.
Yeah.
And I'll walk away like, wow, okay, I'm better now. It's weird how people put up these walls to protect their bad ideas.
I think it's the tribalism. It's this tribe.
Yeah.
Like you double down. And then I was actually, my wife, was looking through Instagram. And she came through across a video that was like, one of those like, I have a warning for you. You know what I mean? One of these things, like, well, fuck, you're gonna like do some like clickbait thing. And it was actually the opposite view that she has, but she watched the whole thing. And I kind of said to her like, babe, there's like all these, imagine there's a whole TikTok world of the opposite view. That's all that is. And imagine like these 2 silos. And like, and then we talked, I guess to piggyback from what we were talking about earlier in the week of like, how do we get to the people that, and I think Trevor was saying, like, let's go, we've got to have our foot in both sides, like go into the echo chamber, kind of, I guess, stir some shit, I don't know, or like kind of like skillfully kind of push back on things, I guess, but then not, I don't know, like, and I guess it goes into like also how do we recruit people to come to this? Is it more of an attraction thing? Like, let's just be a space that people look for and be, they know that it exists versus actively recruiting somebody. Or something else.
Yeah.
Because how do people know that? How do you know that this is going to be a refreshing space for you without knowing that you want it? I guess I don't know. You know what I mean? Like.
why do...
I definitely think you have to be interested in hearing different opinions.
Right, Jessica, why do people not want to arrive at truth, though? Why would they rather be like, I'm in possession of the truth rather than I'm in the search for truth? Like, my ego personally is, my ego is connected with, I am trying to get to the truth. And someone says like, Will, you're not even trying to know what's true or not. It's like, that's where I get really defensive. If someone says like, you're wrong, I get less defensive over that.
I think the reason that people do that is because people want to be popular, and we are social animals.
Yeah. Belong to a group.
The idea is popular, you're going to try to align it with it so that you don't seem like an outsider.
Yeah, you don't want to get ostracized or excluded from the group.
Well, that's in our evolutionary biology, because it's always better to be wrong and a part of the group than correct and ostracized from the group. Because you're out in your wilderness then, and your saber-toothed tiger is going to kill you.
At what point does that create its own tribe of the contrarians? Do you know what I mean? Like, we are now a small but growing part of people, whatever, whether it's vaccines or whatever. Now we're like we're now the growing majority. We become a group of our own that's contrarian to anything that's mainstream or antithesis. Does that make sense? Like,
the counterculture, the rebel.
What?
We Americans are rebels, and that's a common thing in our culture.
It's deep in us. True.
Counterculture and anti-authoritarian.
Yes.
I mean, that's a part of our cultural ethos.
That's true. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's in our DNA.
Both sides kind of think they're the rebels, though. Like, obviously, like, the MAGA crowd thinks they're the rebels. And then, like, I don't know, the progressives and liberals, I guess some of them think they're the rebels, too.
Yeah, like, they're like the resistance rebellion.
The rebels against
I said that. Yeah, I think I made a post about that. Like, you watch Star Wars, both political Kamala Harris people and Donald Trump people both see themselves as the Luke Skywalker rebel alliance. Interesting, right? So,
I also think it's a comfort thing. I think that you have to be comfortable with being challenged. I think you have to be comfortable with hearing ideas that you don't agree with. I think it's much more comfortable to sit around people who share the same opinions and talk about the same topics in the way that you do. So I think it's also a comfort level.
Yeah.
Doesn't that get kind of boring now? Like, I don't know how people don't get bored by that.
But I think, doesn't it gives you the same dopamine hit we were talking about with TikTok, though? It's like you're constantly being told you're right. You're like,
and talk shit about the other side. And
this
is fun, but
yeah, I think so. I think that just feels good. John Haidt does an interesting exercise. He goes with a big auditorium. He says, "How does it feel to be wrong?" And people are like, "Oh, it's embarrassing. It feels bad. It feels terrible." And he's like, "Nope, that's not how it feels to be wrong. That's how it feels when you discover that you're wrong. Up until that discovery, being wrong feels exactly like being right, and that's so good. So." If you know that it feels bad to be proven wrong, then you're just going to go, well, I don't want to be proven wrong then.
What I tell my students, because I'm a science teacher, is that everything is in process of learning. And until you understand it, you're always going to get things wrong. So having things wrong is just a stepping stone to really understanding things. And we all make mistakes. It's just part of the process. And it's okay to be wrong. It's nothing shameful.
No.
It's just the nature of learning anything or coming to understand anything.
Right.
And that's true both inside and outside of science.
Well,
it's how we understand another person being and how we learn to trust somebody. Taking experiences and you test ideas. Can I trust this person or not? And you gather information and change your opinion on that, and you can be right or wrong about that. And it's a perspective that I try to encourage in all my students.
Does this go into then the benefits of an echo chamber? Because I get to nod my head in agreement with what I think is right, and nod my head with shared disgust at self-righteousness at those who I think are different and wrong, right? And so it just creates this loop of agreement, self-righteousness, disgust, it's just, and then you never get to see or engage or push back with other people that think differently in a very healthy way, like we do here.
And that's why I posted about the Plato's Cave, is because it's very comforting to just recline against the wall and watch the shadows. Yeah. And nod your friend and say, hey, look at that one.
Yeah.
Hey, look at that one. Oh, isn't that horrible? Oh, yeah. Oh, I agree. But you're all just reclining and watching the shadows go by.
Yeah, well, there's something too. Like Melissa, you're in the education system. There is something to the education system. I've seen firsthand too, where because there's such an emphasis on transcripts and grades, that kids do become very failure averse. Because wait, if I take this chance and I get something wrong, that's going to be on my permanent record, and then it's going to ruin my whole life. So it's better to play it safe, and we've been conditioned that way. I mean, middle schoolers, elementary schoolers are told, like, if you get a bad grade, that's going to go on your permanent record. Like, that's insane. So kids just don't take chances. So I better just do what I'm told. I better just do what I need to do to get the A. And then you
what does my teacher want to do?
In those really important formative years, you build that mentality, and you go out into the world. It's very difficult to be like, all right, now let's do all the stuff you were saying, which is like, let's take some risks, let's take some fails, let's take some losses on our way to wins. It's very difficult to just like to purge ourselves of the way we were conditioned, growing up for so many years. That's why sports are so important.
Yeah, it's very difficult to focus on learning something rather than going for the grades, because the grades are our social indicator of how we're evaluated, whereas your own understanding and nodding to yourself, hey, I get it, I understand, that gives you a dopamine hit too. Your increased self-efficacy that I can do something, I know something, I understand, I have this skill. So it's the interplay between social acceptance and pride, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm out of curiosity, just like, I guess I was sharing more about like the circles I'm in. Like, what is like the overall like circle that you guys each, either in your family or in your like socially, like friend group, are you guys in, like, are you guys the pariah in the group? Or are you guys more?
That's a good question.
And the same, is it mixed? Are you coming from like a lifelong Democrat family and you're the MAGA voter? Or like where do you guys each kind of like fall? As a general, like a headline, doesn't have the details, but like.
It's a good question. I'm all over the place. I'm mixed. I tend to lean on like the reasonable, like the way that our conversations go in the Telegram channel, which is just like, all right, this is reasonable. But I don't know. Yeah, what about you guys?
So my dad's whole side of the family, there's a few people that voted for Trump in 2016, but all the aunts have gotten them to hate Trump, and they watch CNN and MSNBC every night. My dad watches a lot of CNN, so we butt heads. My mom's a Fox News mom, so I tell her what's wrong about Fox, and my parents are divorced. She lives 1,000 miles away, but so my mom's a Fox News mom. I'm like, no, Mom, that's not true about Biden. My dad's like, Biden's fine. He just has a stutter. I'm like, you're ridiculous.
My dad said the same thing. That's what my dad says. He still says that. He's like, it's just a stutter.
Like 2 months ago that Biden has, cognitive ability issues. My friends are either apolitical or kind of a little more conservative.
Yeah. Jessica, what about you?
Me, my family is conservative and we're Trump voters, but we are few and far between. So I am in a minority in my district. I'm like the 3% in a 97% Democrat district.
Oh, wow.
Where's that at? Where's that at, Melissa? What area?
Downtown St. Louis, District 1.
Yeah.
It's incredibly Democratic. So I'm basically in the closet.
Kind of have to be, yeah.
And in education, I'm in the closet as being conservative, because the teachers and the teachers union and everybody is a Democrat. Everybody I know outside of my family is a Democrat. So, and if I didn't stay in the closet politically, I would be ostracized.
Yeah.
I know that because of the social interactions that I have with my friends and coworkers and in the community. I can't put a bumper sticker on my car.
Wow.
Can't fly a flag. I can't.
Do you really want to put a bumper sticker on your car?
I have to be in the closet.
It's so interesting because I'm more liberal personally. My parents are definitely CNN, MSNBC watchers. My wife is more conservative now, voted for Trump this election, would have voted for him in 2020 if she was a citizen. She wasn't then. She's from Canada. And so, and when I was in California, San Diego, everybody I knew was pro-Trump, conservative, overlapping with the anti-vaccine, the stolen election, all of that, kind of like all became one. Also becoming a lot of Christians, like converted Christians in the same, they started going to churches. And so it was a very weird, interesting kind of, mix. I was the odd man out. And even so,
You said that was in California?
Yeah, San Diego's really military heavy.
Yeah. Pendleton is there, the Marine Corps base. And so, and it almost one of those things where I feel like the social pull, what if I just sucked it up and just kind of converted? Let me just become MAGA, what? To the point where it was kind of almost none of my, my wife will say none of our friends are on the same page as you. You're the only one that thinks differently. So it's kind of an interesting thing of well, it kind of it fucks with me. Am I supposed to? Am I missing something? Or am I want to find that fine line between I'm standing in my principles because I am, not to be contrarian against the peer pressure, which I wonder how much that dynamic falls in other places. But and then, my wife's parents are more definitely hardcore, conservative, anti-Trudeau and all that stuff. And it's all fine. But it's just it's interesting to notice that I have a handful of friends from my previous, DC life that are, either neutral or Democrat. But it definitely is, my immediate and second tier friends are all not, conservative Trump supporters, right? So I feel that pressure sometimes to let me just go along with the tribe, right? Just to kind of keep the peace or join the cool kids or whatever you want to call it.
So what? To go against what you believe, to go against what you actually believe to be true, though?
Well, it actually forces me to no, do I? That's what kind of inquiry. Am I supporting Biden because I just do, or that, or am I becoming it's forced me to kind of be more introspective and why do I believe this? Kind of like the boxing ring analogy, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of has softened me on certain issues and kind of strengthened me on other ones, or kind of become more nuanced. So it's been interesting, the past couple of years for sure. But I'm not going to fall for that line, just because everyone around me believes the same thing, and they could be wrong. We could be, God forbid, in a horrible situation 2 years from now with a Trump, and I could have been right, quote unquote, right? Not that I'm trying to do that, but you never know. I'm going to stand on my principles until I objectively feel ready to, see the logic, Anyways, that's my background.
Yeah. What's your situation, Jessica?
My camera went out my phone went out for a little bit, but I'm, based off everyone's answers, my mom is, I was only raised by my mom, she's Jamaican, and in Jamaica, they tend to be very into politics. So she came here she's very interested in politics. She's lives, breathes, eats it. Everyone who knows my mom knows that. But she is definitely left, would be considered for the left. She always votes Democrat. She watches CNN. She watches MSNBC. She listens to NPR. She listens to Tom Hartman. I don't know if you know who that is.
Oh yeah, I came across him recently.
My mom listens to Tom Hartman and some other lady, but she tries to get her news from different places, but it's all left-leaning news. And it's funny because every now and then I will turn on Fox. I can only do it for 5 minutes, but I will turn on Fox just to hear what they have to say. Because sometimes I'm curious, what is the other perspective? What are they saying? And every now and then I'll tell my mom to do it just to hear, and my mom can't. I think it stresses her out.
Sure.
So I say that, and bringing that up just to go with our conversation earlier, where I think that sometimes it's just much more comfortable and easy to stay and communicate with people who have the same frame of thought as you. But yeah, I've lived in Miami my whole life, except for 4 years where I was in Houston. But when I was here and currently, all my friends are Democrats or either not that into politics, but if they had to vote, it would end up being Democrat, or if they are into politics, it's Democrat. I really don't have, I really can't think of any Republican friends that I have, although I recently met some people that I've been getting cool with, kind of started as business partners, but yeah, that was different for me. But I've always been a curious person, and even though my mom prefers left-leaning politics, she is a very curious person. She even asks me my perspective sometimes because I tend to be more like I try to understand both sides. Yeah, but I would say, yeah, and then, South Florida, at least up until recently, has been a pretty blue area.
Yeah. I think that part of it too is Fox and like MSNBC or whatever. You take NPR and you take Daily Wire. Daily Wire, I guess, has more nuanced, like intelligent people behind it. So maybe that's not the best example, but like a lot of times on Fox News and MSNBC, like they're not good representatives. Like they're trying to just give you the milk. They're not giving you the meat. They're giving you the milk that you want to have through your baby bottle. And when I was on Fox News, they brought me on to talk about critical race theory a couple of years ago, and like I was bringing in a lot of nuance, and they were just like, "No, like you didn't get the memo. Well, we're not bringing you back." Because like I was trying to like not play that game, and it was so clearly told to me like you're not playing the game.
You know what's funny is like a lot of people. Have you guys ever seen that show, The Five, on Fox? It's like on at like 5 or 6 o'clock.
My mom watches it every night.
People watch it, and I'm like, oh, I like it because it's a nice balanced perspective. I'm like, are you kidding me? There's like one Democrat or one liberal, Jessica Tarlov, God bless her. She does a great job of holding her own.
She does.
They abuse her.
What's that?
They abuse her.
Yeah, they're just she's a punching bag. So like it's 4-on-1, and I'm like, I would really respect it if any of the networks had like a legitimate good show that had like just 2 and 2, right? Like,
yes.
None of this like.
And the best two.
The best, really good. Like it's like really like it's like, but it's funny how like people cited, I watched The Five, so I get my diverse perspectives from that, which it's just funny how like it's just.
And then CNN has Scott Jennings on, and they shout him down whenever he starts to make sense.
It's like reverse. Why just one person?
Yeah.
You know who tried to do something like that? Dr. Phil. He did. He had some episodes where he would bring in a panel of people from one side and a panel of people from another side on different topics, and they would have discussions, and it would be like a mixture of everyday people and experts. So you had different perspectives. It was pretty interesting.
I have seen that actually.
I saw his trans one. He did that. He brought in Matt Walsh. For trans issues, I saw him do that. He brought in like Matt Walsh.
I saw that Will Witt kid that used to be a PragerU on a while back.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was just for a short time. He did like a little series, a couple of episodes of it, but that was interesting to me.
I think he might have even had Candace Owens on one time to talk about like affirmative action. He had like a college professor, like a liberal college professor on.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, and there's like Jubilee that does that and stuff like. I think.
Oh yeah, but Jubilee, I don't like that. It just, I don't know. Jubilee, to me, the conversation gets lost.
Yeah, well, people aren't interested in changing their mind. It's like Steven Crowder thing. Change my mind. He's not interested in changing his mind. It's a debate where it's like I'm trying to dunk on the other side, and I'm gonna try and prove them wrong, as opposed to like I'm here to try and learn about what I might be missing. With all of these like crossfire, us versus them panel things. It's all about just representing your side and then defending it rather than representing your side and then trying to see where you could bring in some more nuance and kind of make it more robust. That's what we should all be aiming for. That's what we're doing here. I hope. I mean, that's the idea. Is like, oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I disagree, but I hear what you're saying. Just always trying to walk away with like a very well developed understanding of whatever the topic is that we're trying to dive into. That's the whole point. That's how we get better. It's how like real learning and knowledge is acquired.
What's been the response, Will, on your Instagram when you do these posts? I see you do the lives and the post about it, and like do people comment like I'm in and they just don't show up, or do they?
Yeah, for for this group, yeah, it's like the email list has, I don't know, 400 people on it. I'll maybe like, you know, just post things about it. But yeah, I think people, I don't know, I think that for whatever reason they're not some people are, but like
400 are people that have opted in, right?
Yeah,
like they chose to be made aware of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Huh.
So I don't know. I mean that's the thing. I can follow up and just, you know, like what's stopping you, you know, but it's, I don't know. I mean, part of it probably would be like, you know, like some element of like the paywall, but again, that's to see like, you know, are people going to actually engage and buy in? You know, like I'm not trying to get like numbers. I'm trying to get people to want to engage, like want people who want to talk. You know, and I think that's very difficult to do. It's like free personal training isn't as effective. You know, it's like, all right, well, I gave something for this, even if it's just like, you know, a couple of cups of coffee. Like I gave something for this, so it's like I'm gonna engage. I'm gonna try and learn. I mean, there is that element of how do you do this effectively? Like, all right, I you know, there has been some sort of exchange to be here, so let me make the most of it. And I think that maybe it's just people fall into not wanting to do it that much. You know, people say they want to have their ideas challenged. They say they want to have these conversations, but then when push comes to shove, if the cost is even minimal, they don't want to. It's like a mail-in voting. You know, mail-in voting, the cost is so low to vote that you get a lot of people voting, and then they don't have to be informed. They don't have to. I'm not against mail-in voting. It's really convenient. I like it, but like, it's like, where if it's like I gotta drive 20 minutes and then wait in line for an hour, then it's like, oh man, I better really know what I'm talking about. If I'm gonna give something, I'm gonna pay some sort of cost to get in there and you know, have to do my civic duty of voting. I don't know. What was the back and forth? We had a good one in the group. What was the good disagreement on? And Josh, he's not in here. It was new. He's like, what was
The night was mostly about January 6th.
Oh yeah, J6, yeah.
Was it today you saw something?
No, it was like a couple days ago. Yeah, January 6th is, it's like again, it's like it's not nothing, and it's not 9/11. So can't we recognize that? You know, like it's just, but everyone's going to use it as their political tool. The conservatives are going to show the people staying within the velvet ropes, and the Democrats are going to show the people, you know, smashing windows and climbing up walls. And it's both true. It's that like cliche political cartoon of like, you know, like from this angle and this angle. It's what Cylinder Radio is. You know, my podcast. It's the same thing. It's the same pattern. That's why, you know, my education stuff is called Patterdox. It's the same pattern, just applied different ways. And if you can recognize that pattern in like just in yourself in this area, then you'll see it in a whole bunch of other areas. And then you'll be like, all right, I got it. That's why it's really good when you say like, what have you changed your mind on politically? What like political issue have you changed your mind on recently? Do you guys have one? They're like, oh, I was on this side, I got new information, and then I went to that side.
Like how recent?
Yeah, a recent one. Like, because here's a good one for me. Like for me,
I said how recent.
Oh yeah, I mean whatever. I mean I got one. I mean now it's at this point it's months ago.
An abortion within the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think you said that before. Yeah. You become more pro-choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Was it like one piece of information or evidence or discussion that you had with someone?
I think it was like I said last week, trying to be logically consistent and
Mm-hmm.
But was it right? But was it one like specific thing? Just freedom.
Yeah, I mean, I used to listen to Crowder and Ben Shapiro all the time, and they have a very specific hard stance on abortion, and it was just like, this is way too rigid. And I was like, you say you're for individual rights, but like, are you really?
Yeah. I had one for
like individual rights then.
Yeah,
I didn't say well with me, and I was like,
yeah, individual rights, but like, well, they'll say like, what about the individual rights of the baby, right? Mine was payday loans. I was like so convinced that payday loans were bad. And then I talked to someone who grew up in a really bad neighborhood, like in the hood, and they said It said that payday loans allowed them to keep a roof over their head because no banks would give them a small loan. Even though the interest rate was predatory and terrible, it was a way for them to get money when they absolutely needed it. Huh?
Like a paycheck advance?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, yeah, I guess they're not all bad. You know, these things I'm like, this is all bad. There's no way that I could be wrong in this one. And I think that if someone says like they've never changed their mind on a thing, I think that it's tough because then you don't know what that journey's like. But if you've done it on one thing, then you go, oh, I could probably change my mind on other things too. Maybe I'm going to be open to that. And, you know, like you said, Trevor, like stay more logically consistent and have more nuanced views on things. And then you could say like, I'm pro-choice to a point and I'm pro-life to a point. And then you're not just pro-life and pro-choice because even those binaries are so silly. Because there are a lot of people that are okay with it in the first whatever trimester, but then not in the ninth month.
For me, it was the trans stuff, right? Like for me, I was like kind of like all trans rights, you know, but then the nuance of like kids versus adults.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Like, you know, and then also like, hey, if people want to dress however they want, I'm all for that. Any age, I don't care, you know, but like when it gets to like pharmaceutical or medical interventions before the age of 18. That's different. Yeah. But then after that, you should have, you know, and there should be I'm in favor of no discrimination. You can't get fired for whatever. If you're a guy and you want to wear a dress to work, I don't care. You know, like there's protections.
What about private companies though?
It's a private company?
Yeah.
Versus what? Versus the government, you mean?
Well, the thing I do in my civics class is I say like, you know, with civil rights is if you own a private company, like let's say that I have like an Abercrombie and Fitch style clothing store, and my image, my avatar that I'm going for are like clean cut, you know, early 20s, you know, like frat bros. So I will only hire, you know, in shape white men to work there. And a black woman comes to apply, and I go, sorry, I'm not going to hire you. I only want to hire white men. Should I be allowed to?
I guess it depends on if you're front facing or like if you're like a trans accountant and you're not like at the front desk, you're not like on a sales on the floor.
That's good nuance.
Like Hooters, right? Like Hooters.
A guy sued Hooters. And won. Yeah. He said it was discriminatory. But like, if you're a Hooters restaurant, like I'm not going to hire dudes because it will affect. It's a private company. I'm the owner. I want girls with big boobs and selling chicken wings. That's what I want. Should I be allowed to do that? You know, like, should you be, because people are like, no, that's not cool. You can only hire white men. I was like, well, what if it's different? What if a woman comes here from Zimbabwe? She has like a clothing store for like African style clothing, and I apply there, and can she be like, no, sorry, I'm only going to hire black women? People are like, yeah, that's fine. So, well, now we're stuck because now you're obviously doing double standard,
right? It's like, So I guess for me,
I just feel like you shouldn't say it. I don't know.
That's what happens, Jessica. You're exact. So what they say is you're not a good fit because they can't say that. There's protected classes, so you can't actually say what it is. Would it be better if it was up front? Like I want to know, like, who the racists are. I don't want them to say that you're just not a good fit. I want to know why I'm not a good fit. You know, in California, there's all these weird like employment laws, and you can't, like, my wife has a company and she's had to like fire people, but even though there's like really good reasons why, she can't tell them why because it's a no cause state. So it's better to just say no cause. Well, why? What did I do wrong? Can't say because
I think the problem though is that if you leave it completely open, then there will be discrimination.
Yeah.
And not for good reason. Literally just because it's like, I don't like you because of your color, your gender, your race, your whatever. I think that's the problem with leaving it wide open. Like, I understand when places have a certain look and or whatnot, they're trying to market to a certain type of customer, but then it's just like, well, where do you draw the line?
That's right. And that's exactly what we as a society need to discuss is where do you draw those lines? Where are the lines drawn? And that's only going to happen with transparency, I think. Because now it's like, you know, we can refuse service to anyone at any time. So whatever, like a Korean grocer doesn't want black dudes walking into a store. He can just be like, sorry, you can't come in here. Why? Not going to tell you. Well, like, is it because and then people assume, well, it's because I'm black. Where it might be, but it also might not be.
Yeah.
So I just think transparency is better. But there's risks to that too. I don't know. I mean, if it's a private company and I just don't want to hire a trans person because it just goes against the culture of my company or whatever it might be, but you force them into it. That's like the Masterpiece Cake Shop. That whole case is like, if they say you have to make a cake for gay people and I don't want to, and you force me by compulsion to do it, like what are the chances that one of the ingredients now is going to be spit? You know?
Or what about, a cake for Nazis or a cake,
right?
A cake, if you will.
Yeah, I didn't disagree with that opinion. I felt like that was fair.
That they should be able to not do it?
That they should be, if they don't want to make it, I think that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
what about the other case about the government official in Ohio or the county clerk that refused to certify the marriage because it went against their religious beliefs? More of a government. Yeah, is that what her name was?
I feel like.
You know about that, Will? Like that story, like there was a county.
Yeah. To a coworker and say, look, I can't just do it. Can't do this. So you put stamp on.
If it's, I do think it's different if it's a public. If you work for the government, I think it's different because then we have to uphold the constitutional rights of everybody. Mm-hmm. So I think government employment, I think, has to be under a completely different standard than private.
Yeah, that person should just not have a job then if you can't follow the rules there.
And the cool thing is the free market could take place. So if you go and you say, hey, can I work here? No, because of your whatever, you're transgender. And then you have a platform or you tell your friends and then they can say, well, I'm not going to be a patron of your business then. And that's why, boycotts, I mean, that goes back to the establishment of our country. Hey, you should drink this tea. Like the British East India Tea Company. Well, it's good tea, but we have to drink this tea? Screw you. No, I'm not doing it. Like boycotts, that works. I mean, we saw it with Dylan Mulvaney and Bud Light. You can do that. And then people kind of learn to do it because it comes down to are you gonna sell product? And it might be bad if you're that African woman and you only want to hire black women, and I get offended by that. I'll tell my friends and everyone on my platform, then they don't go, and then that goes out of business. Then that's on them. I don't know. Maybe that's better. It's more aligned with your liberties. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's a fair thought. I just think that sometimes there needs to be some protections, and I also think that depending on where society is and culture is, it sometimes cannot be enough. Let's just say this was 60 years ago, and you say, someone comes out and say, well, I'm not hiring you because you're black.
I know.
Black person can't come out and say, well, they didn't hire me because you're black. Everyone's going to be like, well, yeah, duh.
Right. I know.
It wouldn't change anything.
I think the pendulum is going to swing. It's obviously swinging toward the other side now, especially with the whole meta free speech thing.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Goes, pretty much. So we'll see. What's the repercussions of that? Is the pendulum going to go too far, and then they got to course correct 5 years from now, or?
Oh, the thing you posted, or someone posted about Mark Zuckerberg, like the thing about how he had syphilis. I don't know who posted that. That was so good.
That's good.
But I think it's good that the pendulum always swings. I think it's us trying to find a balance.
Yeah.
We're correct, then things move, we shift, then we course correct again.
Yeah.
So we're not always going to agree with it, but at least we're always trying to find a happy medium.
Yeah.
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. All right, guys, I gotta go. Write some stuff. I appreciate this. I love this. I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna try and get this out more. Let's try and get more people in here. But you guys are awesome. I love these conversations. This is so cool.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Stay safe.
All right. Yep. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Take care, guys.
Bye.
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 All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. That was the Patterdox Roundtable. Join it up. Join it. We have a Telegram. We have a Telegram going 24 hours a day. Whatever issue that you're like, this is an issue right here. Here's my thought on it. I wanted to have you hear some of the people that are in the group because they're great. And it's like no matter what you believe, they'll disagree in a way that is respectful and polite and everything like that. So it's a really awesome group. I hope you guys check it out. It's patterdox.com/roundtable. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to head out. I got to write some stuff, but take care.